Oh, wait, I forgot the rock and roll music. We can't start the show without this.
Yes, there we go.
Yes, yeah. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
It's that reverb that gets me.
Not exactly Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Or even Slash.
But when we talk about the Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads of the Denver media, how many guitarists can we name? Andrew Mason, Orange and Blue Today, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason here. Like, I suppose we could start down that road. R.I.P. Jeff Beck. I believe he passed away within this last year. So, like, yeah, there's a few guitarists we can name. We're right up there with them, not guitar-wise, but just when it comes to talking Broncos.
You got the scarf, too, going on up top. I like that.
I'm slouchy beanie guy.
Yeah.
I think everybody hates it, but I'm growing out my hair this year. So, I don't have to, do anything with my hair. So I just put it on a slouchy beanie, baby. And then when my hair's all long, it's going to fit in this big sack thing like a jaw. Is that right? Is that the Rasta hat, the jaw?
I think so.
You got the hair in the back.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So slouchy beanie guy, Mace Fit Friday guy. There you go. And Russell Wilson, 6 a.m. We got that alert at 6 a.m. Now,
I know.
I will say this. First and foremost, and I'll speak for you, Mace. If I speak out of turn, let me know. We both respect The Athletic. I mean, there's nothing wrong at all with their reporting. It's generally really, really good reporting. By the way, I believe it was Mike Sando was part of this.
Mike Sando.
Talk about creme de la creme, right? Yeah. Kalen Collar, Jason Jenks.
3 good reporters. That's the thing about this.
Right,
I know that I see the word slander.
Yes.
Thrown around a lot on social media. First of all, when it's written, it's libel, not slander. And I think it was in Spider-Man 2 that J. Jonah Jameson explained to Peter Parker the difference between libel and slander.
It was.
Anyway, I was like, yeah, libel is slander spoken in print. It's libel. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway,
lesson. But that number one. That number two. In order for something to be slander or libel, it's got to be verifiably untrue.
Right.
It's got not just for defamatory. It has to be verifiably false. I think what is happening out there is the word slander is being used to describe anything that's negative and isn't what I believe to be the truth, right? I think what we have here, and we'll dive into this more and more.
For sure.
I think we've got a certain point of view. I'm going to use a Star Wars thing. What was said in that piece from the anonymous sources, and I'm not going to trash anonymous sources. I mean, Deep Throat a long time ago was an anonymous source, right? In the Watergate scandal. Okay. So I don't think this is a time to trash the whole thing of anonymous sources. I mean, there have been some very good work done because anonymous sources spoke about something.
Right.
But I think what we are reading is true from a certain point of view. And then there is another side that is the other point of view. I mean, we go back to the Holy Trilogy and when Obi-Wan was justifying telling Luke that, that Darth Vader killed and murdered his father, right? In Obi-Wan's mind, it was true for a certain point of view, even though it was really just a way of trying to retcon things because whoa. We said this in the original movie. Now we're 2 films in. We got to figure out a way out of this here.
Right.
And so whoever came up with the phrase, a certain point of view, to have Obi-Wan say that in Return of the Jedi was genius. But I think that's one thing to kind of focus on. It's a certain point of view, and probably by and large, the point of view of people who aren't with the team anymore or were otherwise frustrated with the direction.
Or will not be with the team anymore. We can get into that as the offseason goes on. Not everybody likes Russell Wilson. This whole leave Russell alone stuff we got today. I was like, oh, please. If you're a public figure, especially at that level, and there's been more if we want to just stick to athletes, there's been plenty of players that have been quote unquote drugged through the mud. So it's not time for Broncos country to feel sorry about Russell Wilson and be like, oh my God, it's another hit piece. Everybody knew this. At least you and I knew it. Again, I'll speak for you, Mace. If I speak out of turn, whatever. This is all old information. Almost everything else thing that we read was all old information. Now, you and I, as local media members, and with that have unnamed sources that talk to people around the building, we're not going to run with this stuff, right? It's just something it kind of crafts the way that you speak about things. But we've talked about The Office and the Jake Heaps and how not all the players liked him, and I didn't connect with players. I've told the lunchroom story. Hell, Orlando's told stories like that. Like, we all knew this. So today it wasn't new information for us necessarily, and maybe some in Broncos country. But I think nationally it was like, oh my God, look at this Russell Wilson stuff. Yeah, it's not that I'm over it or done with it. It's just like, I didn't read anything I didn't already know.
I think like the one thing, and I did write about this earlier in the day, the one thing that I thought was kind of the most interesting part of it that we didn't know was Wilson's culpability in the early season game management, delay of game, false start issues.
Yeah.
That was something, and that was why I looked, okay, what am I going to write about? Because we're going to be talking a lot about this on the radio. We're going to be talking about it here. What if I focused on one thing to get something up quickly before I kind of went into a crazy day out here? Where did I go? It was, and that was it. That was interesting because and I'll say this, Nathaniel Hackett, he fell, in retrospect, he fell on the sword that day.
Yes.
But this reveals another layer to it, that he was getting the plays in a reasonable amount of time, and that things were slow in the huddle. And by the way, in terms of like Russ kind of offering an extra like motivational thing, that was two players on the record who said that in the huddle.
Kendall Hinton and Jerry Jeudy.
And Kendall Hinton said it. Okay. And here's the thing. I mean, I get, that Russ is kind of Mr. Positivity, motivation, all that, but there's something more important than that. And that is getting up to the line of scrimmage and getting the play off in time without an embarrassing situation where the fans had to count it down because you had 4 false starts in 2 games. Okay.
Right.
So I think that moment, it's actually a teaching tool, but I think also again, this is bringing us closer to the truth of what happened and caused those things, that it wasn't all Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett did plenty of things wrong. Okay.
Yes.
Because even beyond this, there are reasons why he got sacked after 15 games. But this puts more in play of saying, all right, it wasn't strictly on Russell. It wasn't strictly on Hackett. There was culpability from Wilson as well. And I think that's something you and I had both heard different things, but the same sort of thing, that, okay, this is not strictly on Nathaniel Hackett.
Right.
Russell Wilson bears some responsibility here.
Yes. Are you a headline guy? Are you a sucker for a good headline?
I'm a sucker for a fun headline or a pun in a headline. Like there was the one, I think, in New Jersey many years ago, headless body found in topless bar. I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. Or the bad puns in a headline.
I like the alliteration. Usually when I'm writing like my pieces, which are very Bleacher Report-y. I apologize, everybody. It's how I learned to write. But like, I always go for like the alliteration. And so that's why I like the disorganized disaster. Too few wins and disorganized disaster. That's basically the end of the headline on the Athletic piece. And we had, what was it, Swink say, like, did you know that he tried to get, now he's refuted that publicly. And I'll go on record. And again, I'm not right about everything or whatever, but people that listen to the fan remember it was over 2 years ago I said Seattle wanted to get rid of Russell Wilson. It might have been even 3 years ago. And I had to fight against that because there were Seattle reporters who hated Mark Rodgers and were like, that's agent-fed information. And I always am very clear with everybody. I don't run with agent-fed information because agents have clients, players, and they'll tell you everything. They'll, as long as it's good for their client. So I had heard from team people, like, it was falling apart with Russ 2 or 3 years ago. I remember fighting with Stokely and Zach on their show on one of the war rooms or something. They're like, no way. I'm like, all I'm saying is Russell Wilson's going to be available. And so did we know things were bad in Seattle? Yes. And we've known it for some time.
Yeah. And his camp is denying it, that he tried to get Pete Carroll and John Schneider fired, and that's what you're going to do. This is going to be very much he said, she said, basically, is what this is going to come down to.
Seattle stuff's the least interesting thing to me.
It's the most interesting thing nationally. Like you go on ESPN, on the bottom line, it's Wilson wanted Carroll and Schneider fired, and that honestly, I skimmed that part of it when I read the piece this morning, and went to the next stuff. The stuff about The Office. I mean, look, we've talked about this, and the thing is, there are some people out there, there are some fans, and again, we try to keep it real here, right? We talked to you guys on the show about the Office. We talked, and I don't know if we've actually specifically talked about the second floor, first floor thing. But having worked in that building, I can tell you, his office being on the second floor means a heck of a lot. That's like, whoa, okay?
Yes.
Second floor at the UC Health Training Center, at the main building there. That's coaches' offices, personnel executives' offices, finance, PR, digital media. So the business people who are there are on that level. The coaches are on that level. The personnel executives are on that level, right? First floor is players, locker room, all the players' meeting rooms, the position meeting rooms are on the first floor. Okay. If you get called up, if you're in the second floor and you're called up to the second floor, usually it's like, oh crap, am I getting traded? Am I getting cut?
Right. It's bad news.
A player generally does not want to be on the second floor unless they're signing a contract extension. So Russell Wilson having his office on the second floor rather than the first floor, that is actually a huge deal.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the gap between Russ and the rest of the team, that is massive. Peyton Manning didn't have a bunker he could go into on the second floor at Broncos headquarters when he played there, and I know that because I worked there. Okay.
Right.
He didn't. So that part is what is something that makes me go, whoa, no, you can't do that. And believe me, every player that's with the Broncos for more than a week knows the gap between first floor and second floor. It's like this, to make an old British TV reference. It's very much an upstairs, downstairs kind of thing, where you've got the people who serve the estate on one floor, and then you've got all the high and mighty hoity-toities up on the next floor. Russell Wilson was on the next floor.
Yeah.
And
wasn't in the locker room. And that's a big deal. Like, guys need to be around each other in a locker room format to prove you're one of the guys. We'll get a little super nerdy here, Mace.
That's your office. That's your desk.
Your office is the locker room. I'll get a little super nerdy with you, as we're always super nerdy on the show. If his office was where Ray Jackson's office is, and you and I know where that is, it's right outside the locker room.
Ray's on the first
exit the
floor.
Locker room, Ray's office, and Ray needs to be there because he's a liaison with the players, and he's such a good man. But you can't move Ray, right? Players go to him. But if Russell's office was there, okay, that's a little bit different. It's still odd, but it's like right there by the locker room. It was the second floor. That is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the symbolism of Ray's office being on the first floor and right outside the locker room is that, hey, you can go to him. Come to me, all right? And he can be basically kind of something of a psychologist. Like, come to me, sit down. What happened?
He could be a buffer. When Vic Fangio took Von Miller's Bluetooth speaker out of his locker because it was too loud, Ray told him to put it back. Like, you don't touch another man's property that's in his locker.
Yeah. But and if you go to Ray, if you ask Ray to keep it just between you, he'll keep it just between you. But if there's a concern that needs to go up, he'll take it up. That's his job. That's why he's got the vice president title on his nameplate outside of his office. Okay,
key piece.
Right, but there is a huge symbolism to him being on the first floor rather than the second floor. And I think that if I want to make kind of anything clear as far as what matters from that story that makes you say, whoa, this, when it was put into place, this was the seeds of some dysfunction. It's Russ's office on the second floor. That's massive in that building.
And listen, we're not here for a bash fest with Russell, because I saw some pushback this morning and people like, leave Brittany alone. Like, okay, is there Schadenfreude out there? Yes, a German word that there's actually no translation for with English, no direct one-for-one word, but Schadenfreude is just feeling good when something bad happens to somebody else. Is there a lot of Schadenfreude with Russell Wilson? Yeah. Does he bring some of it on himself? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does Schadenfreude say a lot about today's society? Is Twitter the worst thing ever? Yeah. Like, so there's all these sorts of factors, but this was quality reporting, quality information, sourced and unnamed sources, both. That is interesting. It's fascinating. I don't think it's piling on or going too far. This is what reporting looks like in a day of propaganda, and especially in the NFL. But I think there's a lot of propaganda in everything. There always has been, Mace. But like the thing is, it's like it's not just about telling you everything's going to be okay. It's about telling you what's going on, and that's real reporting.
It's good journalism.
Yes.
And journalism is often publishing something that the subject wouldn't want published.
Right. Right.
Uncomfortable truths.
Yes.
There are some uncomfortable truths that were laid bare in that piece in The Athletic today. Again, it's a very good piece of sports journalism. And I think have you, by the way, seen the meme of when Apu from The Simpsons jumps in front of the bullet?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's used very frequently right now on Twitter because the Apu jumping in front of the bullet is people say weird nerds on Twitter. The person the bullet's heading to is Elon Musk. And then the bullet is the gun is, and then the gun with the bullet, it's legitimate criticism, right? And I think that's kind of something here. Legitimate criticism and journalism on one side, Russell Wilson at the other. And then there are some people that are throwing themselves in front of the bullet to protect it. No, you don't have to do that. First of all, Russell Wilson's wearing something of a bulletproof vest because he's got a huge contract. He's going to be the Broncos quarterback next year. And oh, by the way, he got the coach that he really wanted because he believes that Sean Payton can get something out of him to allow him to flourish in his late 30s like he did for Drew Brees. Now, that being said, Sean Payton also said he's going to focus on what Russell Wilson does best. So if Russell Wilson is believing that Sean Payton's just going to have him do exactly what Drew Brees did, he's going to have another think coming. Yes. Because it's not going to look like that because Payton's not going to throw a season on the bonfire just to get Russell Wilson to play a certain way to try to make him into a different type of quarterback. He wants to win, and thus it's probably going to look a lot like the Justin Outen, Jerry Rosburg game plans that ended the season and actually worked.
They worked. They worked. It looked good. I think another interesting thing, just perspective again, from a certain point of view, and I'm no Nathaniel Hackett defender whatsoever, but speaking of someone who brings it on himself, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Like this Hackett thing, because we remember early in Green Bay when Matt LaFleur was hired, it didn't work. Yeah. Then all of a sudden it did work. Took about a year. Okay. Yeah. That system is very complex.
That first year they went 13-3 mainly because of their defense.
Right.
Not because of Aaron Rodgers was just okay that year.
Right.
Now, I mean, he looked great against the Broncos, but it's the Broncos. Right?
Yeah, it was the Broncos that year. But it took time. And Hackett, I guess to his credit, or just kind of his thinking, again, his point of view. This episode brought to you by Obi-Wan, now on Disney Plus. Mandalorian, March 1st, by the way, next week, baby. You got to take time out in Indianapolis to watch Mandalorian. But so it's Aaron Rodgers.
I know.
And how slowly that took for him to adapt to LaFleur's offense. Similar concepts, of course, West Coast concepts. Hackett wanted to nip that in the bud. He wanted to be faster. And so he would just kind of yes man stuff for Wilson because he saw how with Rodgers it took some time.
Right.
And he felt the pressure as a first-year head coach. Like, I'm going to cut down that time. I'm just going to tell Russ yes to everything.
I mean, look, and that's another thing. I mean, I even wrote about it the day Nathaniel Hackett got dismissed. You look at signs of what failed and what was to come. The way he reacted at Russell Wilson's press conference, less like a coach, more, I hate to say it, because you and I are kind of nerd fanboys on some things, right? even though we're sitting here in our middle
Heck,
age.
it's a Star Wars guy. We should love
Yeah,
him.
right. But he kind of fanboy geeked out there. Wow. Oh, he had to almost curse.
Holy, shut your mouth. He did
Holy
curse.
shit. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. But yeah, he didn't sound like a coach with gravitas. Like he was 17 and excited about somebody coming in. And look, we were all carried up in the euphoria of that day because, hey, we've got a quarter. I think all of us were like, oh my gosh, they got a quarterback, right? Because
he can throw the ball.
Because we're all sick of watching this crap, right? I mean, we were sick last year. We're sick this year. We were after watching another year of this crap, but we thought that was the solution. But here's the thing. We're media. We're just a bunch of jackwagons sitting there yapping, okay? We're not coaching the team, okay? You need to have a little bit more gravitas. And that is one thing that Sean Payton did bring in when he walked in that room. He brought some heft with him. He brought some juice, real juice, not Vance Joseph searching for juice and drafting Isaiah McKenzie and Carlos Henderson. I'm talking about real juice, real thump, real power. Right. Real presence, and that's going to be healthy as well. Because that's going to be a much more functional relationship than Nathaniel Hackett basically like, okay, whatever, Russ, whatever, let's try to get this done, and creating this Frankenstein's monster of an offense that I think it was said on the record by somebody in the Athletic piece. They didn't know what was going on from week to week.
I think Melvin Gordon said that, right?
Melvin Gordon, yeah.
Was it Melvin Gordon? That was one of those quotes. So like Melvin Gordon on the record, Jerry Jeudy on the record, Dalton Reisner on the record, Kendall Hinton a little bit. So,
and Melvin is Russ's friend, okay?
Yes.
So that if he's saying something about there being issues going on identity-wise and whatever that kind of come at Wilson's feet, there's probably some legitimacy there because he's the one, like he is the one who will back up Russ to the end.
Right.
Because they go back nearly 12 years together.
Right. Boxing with our backs together till the knuckles turn purple. I think there was a line from a Tupac song years ago, but like Mace, I'll make you sick because you mentioned Carlos Henderson. I'll bring up Brendan Langley, both picked before Trey Hendrickson, one of my latest pieces at denversports.com. And I get some pushback, whatever. I'm fine. I got broad shoulders. So does Russell Wilson. But I got pushback because I wrote, like, George Paton needs to be great or be gone. Mm-hmm. And so Broncos fans, like, go Broncos. Like, yes, we're all go Broncos. But you can't be a moron about things and just be like, it's okay. And, like, we can debate. And I think the debate is the fun part.
Yeah.
But when people are like, you're just a hater, I'm like, no, I don't hate George Paton. I think George Paton can be really good. But this ain't Minnesota, baby. Like, you got to get it right. You've got to hit like Mickey Loomis did when he hit on that team. I called it 4 for 4. There's my alliteration again, Mace.
Nice.
In my 4 for 4 section, because you got, and everyone remembers the first 3, but I always say, don't forget the 4th. You got Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Trey Hendrickson in one draft.
Yeah.
One draft in 3 rounds. You got incredible talent that led to 4 straight seasons in the postseason. And you can say Minnesota Miracle screwed over New Orleans, the stupid pass interference call that they didn't call. Like when you killed a receiver and that wasn't called on the Rams, right?
That Saints team, I think, would have beaten the Patriots.
Yes.
Well.
Yes. So it was 4 for 4. They went to the playoffs and there were some good teams because of that great draft. And I think George Paton needs to do that. So like, it's not about being a homer or being a hater. It's just about, like this piece did, quality opinions, journalism backed up with facts and information.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's going, and that's what stands out here. Someone says, just drop it on Gordon. Okay, fine. I actually they're not going to like it because I've got one more clean out piece from Melvin Gordon because like this is the weekend. I think we go to the combine next week.
And that's why this article came out today.
Right. This is the time. Yeah. And this is the time for the last kind of look back, right? This is it. We get to Indianapolis on Monday and all of a sudden we're looking forward. We're looking that way. We're not looking this way. We're looking that way. We're looking ahead. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why you're seeing this sort of thing right now. It's all about the next league, the next league year. And it's about George Paton in the draft doing more of what he's done draft wise, the positives have outweighed the negatives so far. He found a bunch of starters in his first draft. Greg Dulcich, we'll see. He's got to stay healthy. That's sort of why I spent a little more time on the free agent tight ends piece that I put up overnight at denversports.com. I spent a little more time regarding that because I'm not sure the Broncos are as set at tight end as maybe a lot of people think.
Especially this year, speaking of stuff I've received pushback on. And I noticed yesterday I was actually going back and forth with someone I muted. And then I was like, what am I doing? I even went upstairs and told my daughter, I was like, I've been arguing with idiots on Twitter. Like, I should stop doing that. And she goes, you're wasting
Twitter.
your time.
Why are you doing this?
Like, I don't know. Just somebody hit a nerve with the Dulcich thing. Cause I was like, this tight end class, I've got 7 guys graded as the same or higher than Dulcich this year. Mm-hmm. There's probably 3 first-round tight ends.
And that's the drafting. You know what? When you got a class that deep, it's like running back. There's going to be quality there in round 3, round 4.
Yes.
Transformative quality. And by the way, and that doesn't even get to the free agent class. The free agent class is pretty good as well.
And I hope Albert O does more with Sean Payton. I imagine he's one of the beneficiaries from Sean Payton's hire, but it ain't love, baby. We ain't thinking long-term. You better be thinking about this draft class, strength at tight end. You're not as set at tight end as you may think.
Yeah. And by the way, your depth, Saubert, Tomlinson, Beck are all free agents. Of those 3, I think the most likely one back is Andrew Beck because he can play fullback, and Sean Payton wants one guy on his roster who can be a fullback. There you go. So unless he likes somebody better on the market, bring Andrew Beck makes a lot of sense. And this is where George Payton is going to have some influence because he will kind of say, okay, he will give Sean Payton every scintilla of information, inside information on these players to make a decision as to what to do. Look, there's a reason why they're trying to get something done with Draymond Jones right now because you can't find Draymond Jones on the market, and part of that is Sean Payton watching film, and part of that is what management's told him. It comes together. And oh, by the way, even before they had Vance Joseph signed, sealed, and delivered, they were working on trying to get Draymond Jones because they know he's going to work in any scheme. And they know, and Andrew Beck's a guy, like he's kind of that second tier guy that I think ends up coming back. I think there are going to be some changes, but again, like it's tight end's kind of a low key position where I could really see them adding somebody, draft, free agency, maybe even both. Because what if Sean Payton looks at Greg Dulcich and says, this is great, but man, these hamstrings, is he going to be ready?
Well, and I hate to talk about body type, but like there is something to say about body type. I saw Greg in the locker room when they cleaned out their lockers, and I was like, I thought it was, somebody in the media. Like it just his build isn't the build of a normal football player. If that sounds bad, whatever. But like you need to have a better physique. You look more like Thor, but not the fat Thor. And I don't think Greg Dulcich is fat, but he certainly maybe isn't put together the way like an Okuegbunam is put together, right? And there's something to say about the hamstrings. Yes, yes.
When I
kind
look
of slender in the shoulders a little bit.
Yeah. When I look at Greg Dulcich, I think he's probably carrying as much weight as he possibly can.
Chisel it a little more, maybe.
Yeah. And everything's very tight. And sometimes that can lead to hamstring issues that persist. You can get past that, but sometimes.
And he's also one-dimensional. Yeah. The problem, and somebody said bring on the 13 personnel. Spencer did. I'll say this, and again, looking at what Sean Payton wants to do, which is power gap. We're going to go over a little bit, baby. It's Friday, so just give us a second. Let me finish.
Well, we don't have the show for 2 days. We got to get everything in now.
Okay, we've got to get everything now. Yeah. They can't run power gap yet because power gap is 11 personnel spread. It's spread gap. Excuse me. I said power gap. It's spread gap concepts that have power to them. He can't do it now. So the stuff he did in New Orleans, he can't do. You need a tight end that can block. Dulcich is one-dimensional. Okuegbunam's one-dimensional. Yeah. Beck's just as Becky as he can be, right? Beck is Beck, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. But he's not Kyle Juszczyk, you need a blocker. You need an extra lineman. This offensive line is so bad. There's so many questions. What Sean Payton wants to do isn't what he'll be able to do yet.
Yeah.
But you try to get him there, and drafting another tight end perhaps one of those guys we saw at the Senior or the Shrine. Message everybody. I think that's the direction George Payton should go in.
I'd prefer the draft, but I'll say this, Cease. You could sell me on Dalton Schultz right now.
Yeah. Oh God, you gave me chills just saying that, man.
You could see, as far as an unexpected big splash, you could totally sell me on him because he blocks. He's a plus player as a run blocker.
Oh yeah.
And we know what he can do catching the ball, but he's a plus player in the blocking game. Yeah. A true every down tight end. I can't believe the Cowboys are going to let him go. I can't.
Sounds like the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it.
Think of Jawan Taylor and Dalton Schultz together, right? If you want a nice plan, Jawan Taylor, even though Taylor's weakness is run blocking.
Yeah.
But imagine a Taylor and Schultz as kind of your splashier free agents. Like that's a real solid plan for George Payton.
Yeah, I mean, shoot for the moon. But I mean, look, Sean Payton's going to want to make some big splashes here right away. I think there's going to be at least one splash signing in free agency from the Denver Broncos. Like
besides keeping Draymond.
Right. One that makes everybody say, whoa, is coming.
That's got to be Schultz.
It makes the most sense because I look around that room, I don't see the every down guy.
Right.
And you need that. Sean Payton wants that. I see incomplete jigsaw puzzles. And so, and even like you look at free agency, Mike Gesicki, he's basically a big slot receiver. Evan Ingram, basically a big slot receiver. Hayden Hurst, he can block, but he's just okay. If you want to make a splash, there's one guy, it's Dalton Schultz at that position. And I think it would make everyone say, whoa. Jose says the splash may be Barkley. Maybe it's me kind of wishful thinking here. I would much rather go into the draft for my running back than go into free agency.
Yeah.
Tight end,
plenty of backs.
I'll spend on tight end. I'm not going to spend on.
Look at what Evan Ingram did. And Ingram was one of those when Jacksonville was spending money last year. And it was like, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram was one of the best tight ends in the league. Immediately for them.
Yak monster.
That could be Dalton Schultz easily for the Broncos. You want to be deadly on offense? Go get Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. That would be a game changer. And it's a game changer because it would change two phases of your offense. Yeah, it changes you up front in the run blocking, and it changes you in terms of downfield threats. I mean, it's that's the outside. It sort of hit me a couple of days ago. Like, okay, what's an outside the box move that I would think long and hard about if I were the Broncos, if I want to make a splash? And it's like something in the back of my mind keeps saying Schultz. I don't know why, but and then I went back and I actually watched I intentionally watched about an hour of Dalton Schultz film last night, and I'm like, oh God, he's perfect. He'd be perfect for this offense. Perfect for Sean Payton.
Yeah, for what Sean Payton wants to do, Dalton Schultz is the answer. And if you're Dallas, you kind of here's the thing, because I like Jake Ferguson, but they kind of convinced themselves that Jake Ferguson can do the Dalton Schultz thing, and fourth rounder from Wisconsin, of course. I'm sorry. And again, I like Jake Ferguson, but he was not one of my more. I liked Isaiah Likely. I like Chigi Okonkwo. I like Jelani Woods. I did have Dulcich on the list, but Dulcich was further. And Trey McBride was my number one tight end. So Ferguson's nice, but he's not Dalton Schultz, man.
Well, he's Dalton Schultz as a blocker. He's not Dalton Schultz as a dynamic threat.
Right.
That's the thing. And
right.
So you're going to give up a little something. I'm not saying Ferguson couldn't become that player, but he's not there. He's not there yet in terms of the horizontal vertical threat in the offense that can spread defense out and create a mismatch. He's not there at this point. And one of the reasons he did what he did was because Dalton Schultz was taking a lot of pressure off. So I don't know. Now the Cowboys may be thinking, all right, in this deep tight end class, we draft somebody. They may be thinking in those terms already. It's just, they're at a different stage of roster building than the Broncos are right now.
It's interesting talking about everything with you, Mace, but when we talk ball, that's the most fascinating to me, because I don't do the hot takey, like Russell Wilson wanted Pete Carroll. We already knew all that stuff. Good reporting, Athletic. Everyone calm down. Like, Russell Wilson's going to get this until he starts playing better. Who said it earlier, way earlier in the chat? Then they said, hey, when they start winning, none of this is going to matter. right?
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yeah.
when they start winning, none of this matters. So they're winning. That's all that matters. And I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait for him to quiet all the doubters.
Winning fixes every ill. It's the oldest thing, right? It's what did John Madden always say? It's winning is the best deodorant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it truly is. That hasn't changed.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. I'm still trying to find it in the chat room. I can't find it. Anyway, we appreciate you all. Mace, that any weekend thoughts as we tie a bow on today's overtime show?
I mean, first of all, I'm sure you'll be watching XFL. I'm watching XFL.
The XFL.
I'm not sure you want me playing games on Thursday night because the crowd was definitely not what it should have been in Seattle for that St. Louis Seattle game. I do think AJ McCarron's playing his way back into being somebody's backup in the NFL. I think AJ McCarron would be an upgrade for the Broncos, but I'd rather see them go another direction. But yeah, AJ McCarron, I'm watching him, especially in high leverage situations. I'm saying, okay, we know he doesn't have the dynamic arm strength to be a starter, but he ought to be somebody's really high quality backup. He slipped through the cracks a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not a McCarron fan, mainly because there were people like, he's good start in the NFL. Like, no, he can't. But
well, then you're not a fan of the people who are idiots.
Right,
okay?
right.
I heard that as well. Like, no, he is a good.
But he could be a backup. Yeah,
he could be a 10-year backup.
Why isn't he Chase Daniel?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Super quick, I guess. Although I'm thinking about my schedule, I was like, oh, Mace probably got to go, and then I got to go to do Denver Sports tonight. But could Davis Webb actually be Russell's backup? Somebody again in the chat room said that too. I was like,
has he filed his paperwork?
Exactly.
I mean, I think he probably has to file his paperwork to take a coaching job. So
probably.
Yeah. You put it this way. I don't think you can do the Jimmy Spencer thing anymore. Remember him? He was the player
of course.
coach.
I was going to say, who was the last player coach? Was it Jimmy?
I think it was Jimmy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Why not? Why can't you do that?
Owners
would like it. They get a double dip.
Well, literally, the way it went for Spence was that he couldn't get paid to coach. His player salary was it because if they paid him to coach, they'd have to put that under the cap. That'd be like
that'd also be a workaround on the salary cap because you don't have your coaches don't count. So you could pay a player as a coach and then have his player salary be minute.
Which is why they don't do it. I think the Broncos would have liked to have
Russell Wilson coach.
Yeah. Hey.
Although with the way the cap's going up, this Daniel Jones thing and even the Lamar Jackson thing to a different point, like with the way the cap is going to explode, Russell Wilson's contract, if Russ works, he's actually going to be pretty affordable. Everyone's all worried about it, but they're using 2020 numbers or 2021 or 2022 numbers. Like if you fast forward this thing, Russell Wilson's cap number will be affordable based on how the cap is going to explode over the next couple of years.
Yeah. The other
but
thing,
it's got to work.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of things I say on the salary cap. Don't look at the numbers, look at the percentages, right?
Mm-hmm.
The percentages do go up, and you're still talking about 18, 19% of the projected cap. And for Russell Wilson, the way he's playing, that's still too much, okay? He's got to step it up and get at least close to where he was in Seattle to justify the percentage. So it's still an issue. But we are going to see an explosion. Remember, we would have already seen the explosion starting to happen this year, but COVID, we had the 1 year catastrophic revenue hit league-wide. If they had not spread out the hit over 3 years that followed, then the 2021 cap would have been hilariously low. Like you would have had, like the Saints would have had to cut like 3/4 of their roster to be in compliance.
They'd have an XFL team.
Yeah. So that's why it's gone up, but the explosion hasn't happened yet because we're still dealing with the 1 year revenue loss of COVID, which I believe was something in the neighborhood of about $100 million a team in terms of lost revenue. It wasn't insignificant, but we're on the backside of that. We're getting toward the end of that now. And as a result, we're going to be talking about some massive numbers here, which is what I mean. But the thing is, it's when you hear Daniel Jones $45 million, like what on earth is Daniel Jones do to earn $45 million a year?
Where's the mid tier for quarterbacks? Unless someone can get an Andy Dalton, Colin Kaepernick deal. Remember when they re-up those guys are like 2-year deals, and then 2 years later we'll see. Like unless someone can do that, or you do the Kirk Cousins like franchise. Oh God, I guess we have to pay him. Like, where's the mid tier? Where's Daniel Jones' true price? You're either upper echelon or you don't get paid. Like, where's that mid tier?
Well, what's the number? What are the numbers we're hearing about Derek Carr right now? We're hearing $35 million a year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's going to be your mid tier. $35 million for a veteran quarterback. Look, there's going to be a team. I said this a while ago. I said this like in the 2010s. I'll say it again. There is going to be a team at some point that bases its entire building philosophy on turning over quarterback every 5 to 6 years. And it'll be they draft a quarterback, and it'll be rookie contract, draft in round 1, rookie contract, 4 years, 5th-year option, franchise tag, and then start the cycle over again with another quarterback. There's going to be a team that decides this is what we're going to do at quarterback. And it may only be a 5-year cycle. They may not even get to the franchise tag. It may be it may be simply 4 years, 5th-year option, on to the next player. And it will be fascinating to see it. If that works, the only way you can pull that off is if you've got really great quarterback coaching. Like Kyle Shanahan, I think could pull that off.
Yes. He almost has pulled that off.
Yeah. Sean McVay, I think, can pull it off. Andy Reid could, even though he's got the cheat code in Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid could probably pull that off. Right?
Yeah.
But the list isn't very long. Sean Payton, maybe could pull it off. I don't know, because you could argue that Sean Payton's greatest success story in terms of quarterback development, because Drew Brees was already a starter when he got him. His greatest success story in quarterback development was Tony Romo. And he wasn't there when Romo became a starter in 2006, but he was the one who basically got him through those first 3 years and brought him along until he was ready.
Right.
But that was 3 years on the bench behind, I think it was Quincy Carter.
Yes.
Drew Bledsoe. I believe Vinny Testaverde was floating around there at one point as well.
Right. More proof we could do an hour show, which
don't tell the powers that be that.
Right. It's like
and you gotta go. You gotta get.
Yeah, I got Denver Sports tonight. I got to leave in 45 minutes after I get these clips up. But anyway, we appreciate you all, and yeah, this is just the start, baby. We started Orange and Blue today because we're like, we need to do this every day. And so we started it, and we ain't finished, baby. So we got a lot of big stuff coming. Everyone just keep staying tuned. Tell a friend. Like, we would appreciate it. And it's like, yeah, let's actually discuss the Broncos. Let's not be haters who are ignorant to the business of football. Let's not be fanboys that just say everything's great. Hey, let's be a fan. Like,
everything is awesome. I think that was the Lego movie.
Yeah, it was.
Things you know when you're a parent. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Yeah, like sometimes I would, when I was being kind of a wise ass, when I worked for the Broncos, sometimes I would just like hum that to myself. Everything is awesome. When it was bad.
As my mother always used to tell me, better to be a smartass than a dumbass.
It's true.
So there you go.
You can be a smartass, you can be a wise ass, just don't be a dumbass.
Exactly. You can be Andrew Mason. No, you can't. He's at Mace Denver on Twitter. I am at Cecil Lammey. Appreciate you all. Be safe, be kind. Know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, I ask that you please stay frosty.